Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the October 2025 Comprehensive Astrology. In this video, I'm going to give you all some intuitive messages I've gotten about the month ahead, as well as pull up some astrology charts and look at some of the specific transits that we have to expect for this month ahead. I hope you're all doing really well, and I'm super excited to get into this for this month because what a change, okay? I can definitely say that I feel very different compared to, a year, 2 years of energy that I've been filming these videos for. Yes, much longer than that, but there's a big change here compared to, I would say, about the last 2 years of general feelings. And I think that these eclipses that we had, which I did make videos about that you can click over to my channel, the lunar eclipse that we had, as well as the solar eclipse in Virgo last month in September. Well, those eclipses have really changed up our lifestyle. It has really changed the board. This is a very different hierarchy of energy that we're working with, and I do think that we can expect quite a different quantum experience to be navigating or coming through to be navigated for this month. So yeah, what do I want to get into intuitively for October? First of all, I can feel the water element oncoming. So we're building up to these huge, major, grand water trines in November, and these are already starting to activate a little bit in October. Of course, we have Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, Mars just entered Scorpio. We'll also have Mercury going into Scorpio, Neptune retrograding back into Pisces. And while these will not be exact in October, by the time we get into November, we will have very, very powerful grand water trines. And I think this is going to be very difficult actually for a lot of people because I find that the water element is not the most familiar for a lot of people here. A lot of people have been very trained by the earth element, right, that we've had with Uranus and Taurus, Pluto having been in Capricorn. We had also those super powerful triple Capricorn conjunctions earlier this decade, I should say. And then also I feel that people are very quick as well to work through the fire and air elements. Well, we're going to get quite an education about the water element starting now, which means that a lot of things are going to get washed away. When a big flood comes, it will sometimes wash out the riverbank, or a lot of the debris or smaller rocks will be washed out. Also, I could see this as obviously a major cleansing, purgative period of time, but in hopefully, or certainly with the potential, as indicated with the Grand Trine, to be a positive purging kind of energy, or a healing purging kind of energy. So yes, we are definitely moving into a wonderful time for detoxes, cleanses, and the body is certainly indicated as well, so that the feeling of clearing something out of the body, digesting, processing, has already been coming up with the Virgo season that we just went through as well, which rules, filtration, processing. Also, we're moving into Libra season in the beginning of October, and of course then Scorpio season afterwards. So there's going to be a lot of what I would probably term cleansing data coming in here. So information that we've needed for a long time in order to process things. And yes, not always is this a nice bit of data that could come in here. Very easy during this time to be surprised at the people around you. Very easy also to get kind of like surprising facts, or like, wow, I never knew this about that person. Or, I thought that this person would be there for me in my time of need, but it's not them at all. It's actually this person over here. Or, I thought that this income would give me a retirement fund, but in reality, this industry is completely destabilized. And there's going to be a lot of kind of seemingly negative data coming through like this, but it's actually orienting us in a better direction. So wouldn't it be terrible to be like engaged with someone who you don't even know in the future will never be there for you? Well, now you know. Now they're not there, and now you have that data and you can begin to reorient. Or wouldn't it be terrible to keep putting your valuable time and life force energy into like a job, a business, or a career that in the future will not mean anything? well, now you see the dislocation, or, you see the change in outcome, and you can begin to reorient. This is like a cleansing process, right? This is like a purgative kind of paradigm. And it's better here to feel that discomfort than to hold on to the corrupted or toxic energy. So yeah, this is something that I really need to talk about. So important for October 2025. Corrupted or toxic energy. What does that mean here? What are the indications of it? And how can we work with it in a growth-oriented, healing-oriented way? So corrupted or toxic energy here is tied into quite a few things, and it's kind of holistic, and that's one of the reasons why you would see, for example, this solar eclipse in Virgo that we had, the lunar eclipse in Pisces, the nodal axis on Pisces and Virgo, in and of itself indicates a paradigm of corruption, toxic energies, mismanaged time, money, and energy, because it puts the eclipse points onto that 6th, 12th house axis, which is the axis of, on the 6th house side, routine, time management, personal, individual management routines with Virgo. And then on the 12th house side, it's more of the institutional kind of management, institutional routines, institutional macrocosmic systems. Okay. So it's important to know here that that axis is in question. So it kind of means that for everybody, like I'm talking all people, this is actually quite a unifying factor here, oddly. It means that everybody has something off here, something off with routine, something off with connection to institutions, something off with, perhaps financial management, time management, diet, okay, budgeting of all kinds, whether this is nutrition, whether this is money, whether this is time. And then, so at a micro level, when it comes to like personal freedom, like how I choose to manage my day, how I choose to spend my money, how I choose to eat. And then also at a more collective macrocosmic institutional level, like, what society says time is, what society says diet is, what the larger like national food infrastructure is, what the, larger economic choices being made, how that affects, your individual, finances through like taxation or through inflation or something like that. So this whole axis is in jeopardy right now. And also the grand water trines, right, indicate at a quantum level that something has gotten really gross and needs cleaned out or washed out or decluttered even. So we've got it coming. And then also that you could say the cusps as well, like Pluto having been on the cusp, Neptune and Saturn being on the cusp of Pisces and Aries. That says that people are not fully on board with changing this. Because, the Saturn and Neptune went back to Pisces and, it went into Aries. We got into that new frontier mode. Then it got pulled back. So this says like, yes, I understand that these are corrupted, toxic, broken systems. I understand that I can't keep doing things this way in my own life, but I'm not quite sure I'm ready to change this. So there's that sort of like hesitation or discomfort with making greater changes. And there's that want for a hit as well, which I've been talking about, which is another major signpost of corrupted or toxic energy. And, all we can do is really work on this at an individual level here for the most part, as that will be the most helpful thing at getting collective change, is just individually, like many, many individuals working on themselves, getting their own choices better, getting their own, consumption grids in order. And then if you can imagine like a greater collective of people allowing this corruption or toxicity to release, or allowing themselves to no longer need, hits, whether that's, something as extreme as like drug addictions, or something like even like porn addictions, or something like dating app addictions, fast food addictions. Okay, we have like a very corrupted web of collectively chosen. Okay, that's very important. This is not, people are not forcing us to connect to these sort of dystopian, toxic, corrupted nodes, okay? Individually chosen at a collective level, negative constructs, right? If we can individually kind of move the other direction with these things, there's a longer list than what I've mentioned, but it's anything that has these kinds of energies. That's going to be the most powerful thing here, because there's something that's very unconscious and impulsive here. And I think that we can all feel the way that stress and the way that pain from the past or overwhelm, or in some cases, lack of real intimate connection, yet surplus or saturation of kind of fake intimacy or fake connection, the psychological impact of these points of pain causes collective corruption to compound. And the importance of generating better personal boundaries and creating better personal safety, meaning sometimes uninstalling apps, meaning, no longer following certain impulses to get fast food or to, consume or eat something that is terrible for you. Things in moderation are not a problem, but we're really looking at loops here. We're looking at cycles, right, with the 6/12 axis. We're looking at things also that we institute in our own lives as a routine. Spending habits, monthly bills. I eat here multiple times a week, stuff like that, really. I constantly am visiting, doom scrolling, TikTok, social media, any social media website, depending on how it's used. All of this is going to really, really start to hurt and really start to eat away. Dating apps as well. They're going to eat away at our bandwidth, okay? And I've noticed lately that there is desperation for people to have their bandwidth almost consumed by something cheap and fake rather than something deep and meaningful. Meaning that people here will very easily choose a list of people, on Snapchat or a list of people on dating apps over someone who they've taken a long, long time to get to know and have really shown up for. The priorities will be inverted here for a lot of people. And this will basically consume people's bandwidth. And, they can't focus on anything. They can't get anything done. They can't do anything that has any type of value at a larger level. So this is disempowering. This is something that is preventative to personal growth. This is something of for lack of a better terminology, this can be like a zombification process where people lose through perhaps even, I would call, exposure attention deficit disorder, perhaps, through doing these things, through, doom scrolling short form content, there can be a certain deficit of attention and deficit of bandwidth that we unknowingly are choosing to exacerbate. And what are the hallmark symptoms of this happening? Well, now we actually want cheaper relationships, or now we want, people at more of an arm's length, yet maybe like a superficial feeling of intimacy. We actually begin to prefer that over real intimate connections. Now we actually begin to prefer a fast food meal over a wonderful home-cooked meal with food from our garden. We actually would rather have that fast food. We now perhaps begin to prefer or want some type of career or some type of job where we're having to punch a time clock for that cyclical paycheck. Some of us prefer that now over, our own farm or our own real individually owned property. So you see how this becomes almost like a manufactured psychological cancer that causes or sort of assists the wealth divide or the wealth gap. So, you can kind of see what's going on there. And the thing is it's not even that groundbreaking. And I think that people kind of understand this, but they don't really want the responsibility of anything, honestly. People are very happy here to have, their rental apartment and their, aesthetically pleasing outfit or something. And, that's enough for them. And, at the same time, people are disappointed that it costs so much. They're disappointed at the sort of cyclical spending process that they're in the same way that people might be disappointed with themselves as they open the dating app. But at the same time, there's no real change in action for a lot of people, which becomes a sort of, a sort of roundabout vote of support for these collective systems, even if they know that it's not really good, or even if they know that it's very questionable, like what their life essentially is being given to. So this is kind of dark as well, and this is definitely something that we're looking at as Saturn, Neptune retrograde back to the anaretic degree of Pisces. Pay attention if you have anything in like the anaretic degree of Pisces, or really of any sign, as this would very much be like front and center in your life. This is a question of corrupted connecting points. This is a question of not having the bandwidth to actually generate a different way, and not feeling sometimes that our lives are actually worth, in some cases, making that bandwidth happen, or choosing meaning, even if it's uncomfortable, or choosing, I suppose, like, to get out of the comfort zone of convenient, consumerist, corrupted, psychologically manufactured situations, and actually taking a chance on a real human connection, or taking a chance on real food, or taking a chance on leaving the impulse brain, or channeling it in a healthy way, which would warrant a video in and of itself, how to do that, how to channel, the lower brain in a more healthy way in this technocratic era. I don't know what the right word is, but how we can make sure that that's not causing us to fall into the hands of, or to fall into a trap, essentially, a trap of consumerism, or a trap of things that look good on the outside or are papered over, but on the inside are sort of like corrupted. That is essentially the energy of narcissism, right? Something that has like an external shell, but is not really substantial on the inside. So there's that kind of deceptive, egoic energy that really we know if we're either engaged with it, or if we have that going on ourselves. And it's not even so much about making the inside match the outside here. That's not really what this is, because that can cause all kinds of problems here as well. What this is really about, again, with the Virgo-Pisces axis and the Grand Water Trine, I'm just getting chills for some reason. What this is about is allowing the ease of each present action, each present moment, to be substantial and meaningful, and not demeaning, okay? Meaning that we're not losing view of ourselves and our actions. We're not participating in things that are demeaning. We're not also procrastinating, doing what we know needs to be done, okay? Or what we've got something broken in our lives, we've got something we need to fix. We're not over here in La La Land, pretending that things are okay, dressing things up, making things look nice while chaos erupts in something that is our territory or our responsibility, okay? At the same time, this is an important point of balance. We are not demeaning ourselves, putting ourselves into a chaos or a responsibility that we can't resolve, or sacrificing our health, sacrificing our, time, being more than we can be, or putting all of our life force on the line in a gamble to try to fulfill some kind of responsibility or fulfill something that's not possible for one person. And my gosh, one of the most important points of October 2025 that I feel intuitively is making sure that we're not compromising our health. Like, very simple, right? Again, sometimes people forget, I think with the South Node in Virgo, that a lot of this is very simple math, okay? Am I in an environment that I can be healthy in? Am I making choices every day that are at least, a baseline of health? Am I spending my resources or working with my resources in a realistic way? Am I living above or below my means? Okay, these are like very mathematical questions. And yes, I understand with the North Node in Pisces, and also this Grand Water Trine and this cusp time that we're in, big change for humanity, right? I understand things can get very inspirational in a way as well, and things can get very kind of like visionary, and I have, these ideas about what things could be, or I have these like, in some cases it can be skyscrapers in the mind, and in some cases it can be real possibility. It is important to distinguish, though. I understand that there's also that too, and that's really making things kind of hard during this time, because people are kind of like letting one mess with the other. So like my vision and my ideas are making me forget the simple math of my life, or I'm getting so kind of like focused on the boring, mundane, simple math that I'm not really considering how things could be better too. So it is very much about giving time to both sides of this in an equally balanced way. And the only way to do that, my friends, is to, what's the right word? Leave or burn out all of these addictive, consumptive, time-wasting mechanisms. I think that's the best word. These could be addictive energy lines. These could be consumptive energy lines. It's really to step away from that, because you're almost forced, when you're not beholden to the impulse brain, or you're not beholden to trauma grids or pain from the past, disappointment, you almost can't help but begin to integrate the simple math and then the more visionary sides of your life, which basically the sum result of that is self-actualization. So it's important to know that these time-wasting mechanisms, or these negative elements of society that so many people are unable to have the bandwidth to put borders up with, or boundaries up with, or unable to have the bandwidth to connect to things that are really meaningful and substantial. It's important to know that these things antagonize the self, and they antagonize the path of self-actualization, and they basically suck up your energy like a vampiric kind of grid. So it's important to disconnect that. These are like basically parasitic energies at a higher level. So these are not like physical parasites. These are like energetic parasitic energies. So they are antagonists of the self, and the more you disconnect from them, the more the self will grow. The more you connect to them, certainly in an unhealthy way, the more the self will be depleted. So the choice is ours, and nobody will stop us from doing it. Okay, so let's move on a little bit to astrology. That was a wonderful, wonderful session of intuitive insight. I'm so thankful for you all being here and helping to come to this as we were all working on this together. Okay, so there should be charts on the screen now. What do I feel? Okay, so first of all, October 6th, Mercury enters Scorpio. We have also an Aries full moon, so suddenly there's a very Martian energy, Plutonian energy coming up, and this sort of brings us straight into the growing water element of October. So Mercury enters Scorpio. We're going to get very fine-tuned and investigative with our mindsets. Also, the Aries full moon will give us a dose of energy. If we've been depleted, we should have a chance there on October 6th to begin resting more, or to begin kind of like regenerating energy. It's possible to be very depleted leading up to that, as September obviously was a complete paradigm shift. So that usually does bring about a bit of depletion. Okay, on October 13th, we have Venus entering Libra and Pluto direct in Aquarius. So we have also air energies coming in there too. So Venus going into Libra, it's easy to repair relationships there. If you've had anything where, your lack of bandwidth caused you to like pursue something meaningless while you left like a meaningful relationship, kind of to die, it's wonderful during that time to connect back or to repair things. It's also nice to, because, Venus was in the debilitated sign of Virgo, right? So we had a lot of relationship difficulty there. It's nice to actually understand the power of relationships, right? With Pluto, also direct Pluto trine Venus. There's going to be a realization of, again, what was substantial or unsubstantial relationships. And also a question of how relationships are built. And I mean, again, this could deserve a whole video in and of itself. But, how are we creating relationships these days? Does technology have a monopoly on human relationship creation? That might be something to think about here. And that might be something to think about, if that is true, how could that be used in a better way? Or how could this be, maybe worked with in a way that's less depleting, or how could it be bypassed as well? It's nice to think about that here, as I do see a lot of people really winning here who are not using these systems. Even if there's a bit more isolation, or even if there's a bit less connection, perhaps that could be better here than a saturation of meaningless connection. So that's another thing that I'm feeling, you all, just as a side note before I continue with the transits. Some people really feel vacancy here, or they feel drained and depleted, but also some people just have victory after victory here, especially people who are not buying some of the cheap connection, or not buying how easy it is to just have this like constant inflow of random information from random people that never means anything in the end. So there's also like major material victories here too. That Venus trine Pluto in Libra and Aquarius, monetary gain, and then also time gain or relationship gain as well, through having good technology boundaries, but then also being very judicious with the types of relationship energy coming into our life. Also, it's possible for a new relationship to start there for some people, Pluto trine Venus. Or a new kind of way of the new love language. Okay, yes, that's much more powerful. Good time to think about our love language. Good time to think about how we could do better there. Okay, let's see. A lot of nice transits in October. I'm looking at these charts. But there's still kind of a feeling of conflict, but it's like conflict that will resolve things. We have a new moon in Libra on October 21st. Grand rebalancing act. Okay, we look at data differently. We have new data. We understand who people really were. We're not limerent anymore. We're not even liking some people anymore. We're in some cases upset that we ever entertained certain things, or sometimes we wish we could have gotten our time back. But try to not get stuck up in things like that, because we have something much more important, you all. October 22nd, Neptune retrogrades back into Pisces and the Sun enters Scorpio on the same day, and we begin to activate our grand water trines. Not quite, but it's applying. So there's another paradigm shift that comes on October 22nd, and this is a different way of working with elemental energy. Again, this is the water element, so things flow. There is fluidity. There is a lot of things coming in and a lot of things going out. And I would say also that there's something much more important coming in that we need to work on, something much more purposeful than any of this stuff in 2024 or 2025 up till now. So this is like grand, again, self-actualization grid. Like things that we've needed to do for our whole life, okay? And we have to feel our life in order to know what this stuff is, or in order to kind of identify this and pursue this properly. We have to know who we are, we have to know where we've been, and we have to be very kind of sensitive, right? Sun in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces. We have to be sensitive to real connection versus fake connection. We have to be sensitive to good versus evil. We have to be sensitive to, nutrition versus like empty calorie. We can't, pretend that a fake connection is real. We can't pretend that an empty calorie is like nutritious. We can't pretend that, something that makes us feel good but is bad for us in the long run is a good thing. And because, again, when I was talking about how these depleting sort of vampiric grids antagonize the self, what it also does is it desensitizes us. Because when the self is antagonized, you lose sensitivity, because you're no longer really an individual feeling, or your individuality is reduced, therefore your individual feelings are reduced. So you start to kind of move more into a larger grid or a larger collective of desensitized beings. And I know that jargon perhaps is scary sounding, but this would be a nice time to resensitize, okay? Neptune back into Pisces, Sun into Scorpio, feeling, Sometimes feelings are scary. I know, sometimes we've been through trauma and we don't want to feel that stuff anymore. But we do need to feel, because in order to self-actualize, we have to feel and sometimes get the vision for what it is that we need to do. Otherwise, we're kind of like running around in circles, or we're kind of chaotic, right? So again, that antagonization of self, it desensitizes, it augments chaos, and it turns us off and makes us disinterested in things that are actually real, in relationships that are actually real. Imagine, having like a real meaningful relationship in your life and it's just disregarded for a host of superficial, supernatural relationships. Big growth of avoidance here. People who have struggled with avoidance could really, really begin to descend back into that. And this could affect like everybody, okay? Meaning like the collateral damage at a collective level from like avoidance as a result of self-antagonization, as a result of desensitization, as a result of personal chaos, will just ripple and ripple and ripple through like the collective, and it's going to cause a lot of people pain, and it's going to backfire as well. And you see that's already been happening too. It's interesting to see how like quantumly karmic this period of time is, in the sense like, okay, you've done someone wrong or someone's done you wrong, and you can just see almost a synchronistic events happen that may have nothing to do with you, but it like kind of just shows almost, how like the butterfly flaps its wing and it causes like a hurricane across the world, or that, that saying with Neptune and Saturn back into that anaretic degree of Pisces and this grand water trine, there's going to be a lot of stuff like that. Okay, there's going to be a lot of butterfly wings flapping, essentially, and that is a victory for a lot of us here, because we know that the time has been coming, and we know that we're safe, and we know that we've been trying as hard as we can. We're not perfect, but we've been working to really clean things up. We've been working to generate meaningful relationships, and in some cases, it's just essentially to be disregarded, and we're not worried about that, though, because we've tried. So it's a nice time to not essentially have regrets here, because things are very chaotic. This is a very chaotic energy, but very healing for a minority of people as well. So we enter Scorpio season on the 22nd of October this year, and you guys might remember that I was talking about the progression chain of events that we were going through from like Virgo to Libra to Scorpio. We were going through data coming in Virgo, deliberation in Libra, and then there was going to be an execution or action taken in Scorpio, which may lead to a kind of like void or vacuum space because of how things change. I'm already feeling this in early October. Maybe that's just because I kind of get things in advance, but maybe some of you are already feeling it too. Already kind of seeing things clear out, already kind of seeing the vessels or, certain things being cleaned out or emptied almost. And then through this, we will have a chance to resensitize and to redirect. And then, of course, yes, in Sagittarius, there are going to be like results and ripples from all of these actions that happen in Scorpio. But I will just tell you all that this Scorpio season, it's huge, okay, with these grand water trines and with this nodal axis coming from these eclipses as well. This is not going to be... maybe subtle isn't the right word. I mean, there can be like subtle outcomes and poetic outcomes, certainly, but it's not going to be a forgettable Scorpio season, and it's not a hard time to heal things either, or to like mend broken fences, or to offer olive branches. I mean, I feel like that's good, and I welcome that. I welcome any kind of peace efforts here, because conflict is going to be just on steroids, and it's going to be so easy to choose battles, or to choose disregard, or to choose to end certain connections, and maybe some of them need that. But specifically where things are meaningful, or you have like real connection with someone, it's just nice to try to repair. But some people can't, and some people simply cannot allow repair, cannot allow healing, cannot allow bygones to be bygones. Also, people in some cases are so scared of meaning. Again, there's this avoidance thing. There's this kind of arm's length thing. Get that as a strong psychic image here. Because the depletion is so strong. The drain is so strong. People are so tired that they almost cannot support meaningful things. And they think they're powerful to not do that, when in reality, this inability to support meaningful things is a symptom of hyper depletion. But it brings relief, right? It's almost like being alone in a box or, rental apartments, right? It's like individual living. It's kind of, this can be great for some people, but, this can go shadowy here too, where it's like, it brings me so much relief just to have my own private sphere. And even though this costs so much and it takes so much from me, I feel good inside of it, rats in a cage kind of thing. How some things, once they've been caged for a long time, they stop wanting to leave. So there's something like that here too, which we can heal. But I encourage you, if you have very much, and again, for some people, they need these private spheres as well for this time in order to regenerate, and that is absolutely valid. But pay attention when there's a rejection of meaning, or there's, holding someone great at arm's length, or while choosing something meaningless, or choosing something saturated, or still kind of engaging things that are demeaning, okay? Pay very close attention to any dynamic like that, because that's what we really look for, to see the problematic side of this private sphere dysregulation. And then also an addictive tendency within that, or a dopamine kind of imbalance within that. This is a desperate cry for help from the inside. This is the self being so antagonized by vampiric structures that it is basically in emergency self-coping mode and coping through avoidance. Because the water element, you have to remember, the water element, we think of Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer as signs that are like very private sometimes, and they can be. But you have to remember also the water, all water connects to all water, right? Imagine how many drops there are in the ocean. And if they were disconnected from each other, there would be no ocean, right? A body of water is how many drops of water. And they're all connected to make a larger body. So while the water, we think of the water element as a very kind of secluded or private energy, without connection, it's nothing. So water has to connect to water in order to become powerful and create larger versions of itself. And you could say the same for all the elements, So what we can deduce from that is disconnection and division is always disempowering on the earth plane. Careful. So we have, and I'm talking a lot about this on Patreon. Do check out my Patreon page below, because I've been going into this so much. We need to disconnect from certain things during Jupiter and Cancer. We need our own private sphere. We need sometimes areas that we're able to just come to ourselves or come home to ourselves. But we also need, something about Jupiter and Cancer is also connecting with healthy water, or connecting with others who are on the same page and having kinship. It's not necessarily total disconnection or total isolation. And it certainly is never going to be, kind of meaningless casual connections. It will never be that. That was Jupiter and Gemini. So engaging in like meaningless casual connections, or things that never really go anywhere, or things that also never go past a certain surface level of connection, is chatter. It's TV. It's media, essentially, in human form. It's never penetrating anything, and therefore it's never really giving anything. Now we end October with Mercury going into Sagittarius. So again, Mercury's moving very fast. We don't have any Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which is really good. It's going to really firm our mind up. It's going to help our mental boundaries. This is a great time to heal like the brain. Okay, so like impulse healing, right? Scorpio, Mercury and Scorpio, that has a lot to do with brain impulses. That has a lot to do also with neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, Mercury and Scorpio. Okay, so if you ever needed to do like a dopamine detox, this is a wonderful time. The whole collective could benefit from that no matter what, as there are definitely layers of dopamine dysregulation, but most people have it right now. Also, it's a nice time for any type of serotonin boosting activity like spas, okay, water element, massages, things that you enjoy, rituals, okay, better housing, better living arrangements, spending on oneself, okay, because the generation of some of these healthier neurotransmitters will actually have beneficial holistic effects on the body, which will help you to be less reliant on these vampiric structures, which will help you to become yourself more. You know what I mean? It's like you have to think about the ripples here. That's what people struggle so much in this era to do, is to think about cause and effect and ripples. So I can understand maybe one ripple out or two ripples out in 2025, but like, do you understand that there's like, how many ripples? Who knows? Anyway, so Mercury and Sag by the end of the month. Try to get your mind straight before the 29th of October. What do you need to do? What's the plan? Can you heal your brain a little bit during that time? Because by the time Mercury goes into Sag, I do believe it retrogrades this year there as well. It's debilitated there. We're going to have a challenge there again with a dopamine dysregulation. We're going to have a challenge with, were we prepared to go to battle or not? Were we in good shape? Some of us have to understand here also that because of the way that things are going, or because of the kind of confrontational energies that we're having, that one almost has to be prepared to go to battle sometimes, which means you can't wear yourself out, or you can't risk getting the battle call after you've lost 2 nights of sleep, or after you've not eaten properly. You know what I mean? So we have to really fall back, as I was saying over this summer, on like the roots and stems, not so much the blooms of the plant. So we have to make sure that our roots and stems are in good shape before we focus on, pruning the blooms and all those more external parts. So, finally, you all, I think that that's probably enough to talk about with October. I do want to invite you over to my Patreon page where I do weekly forecasts as well as sign by signs. So check that out. I also want to tell you that to have faith and courage in yourself, we have a very different paradigm that we're moving into now, probably around the time you're getting this video. So try to escort yourself with love and benevolence during that time, as we're all kind of getting our sea legs there. And try to be forgiving to people as well. It's quite harsh to hold grudges or to be too focused on betrayals here, as there could be a tendency for that. It's important to understand, even if you've been disregarded or hurt by someone, that it's not maybe personal, or that it's not sometimes an expression of the pain that you feel. Even if the pain is very strong, it has maybe more to do with the other person, or it has more to do with the other institution even. So yeah, it's oftentimes going to resolve as well or heal, but there are nonetheless indisputable results here that just mean something, and we can't get too, wounded over some of these things. So try to keep yourself in very strong love here. And I think the most important thing that I can tell you all is, it does feel like something else kind of needs to come out here. Most important thing that I can tell you is don't get hung up on needing to stay in confusing, situations, or negative living circumstances, or unsustainable things. Try to not get into mindsets where you're like, I've got to push on through something unsustainable, or I've got to be something I'm not, or I've got to live somewhere that I can't stand or is unhealthy for me. And try to begin selecting better things. So again, this requires sensitivity, right? It requires sensitivity to understand what's right for you. So it's totally fine here to place aside pain, to place aside situationships, to place aside careers or incomes that are not good for you, okay? And to really take time to focus on you. And we're going to have quite a bit of time for this as well. It's really a factor of Jupiter and Cancer, and this water trine as well really supports it. But on that note, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful October. I've so enjoyed speaking with you all. Do hit the subscribe button below if this video helped. Free ways to support the channel include subscribing, hitting the thumbs up button, commenting, sharing the video. I have an ebook on Amazon called Moon Symbols, which is a very simple way to support as well. And then, yes, a lot of my main focuses do come through Patreon, and there's such an abundance of content over there, so do come check that out. It's a very reasonable and gives a wonderful, wonderful content to have for any time that you need it. But yes, thank you all so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.